Alright, so today I wanted to talk about a few different types of pen blanks, and as you can see I got a bunch here. I'm going to start with some of the more simple type, which are pure resin pen blanks. This pen blank was poured with alumilite resin, several different kinds of mica powders, and I used a PVC pipe to create the mold for it. So I poured it in, and after it hardened I removed it from the mold, and now we have a pen blank. Another type that's very frequently used are just pure wood pen blanks, and I believe this is a piece of rosewood. You can see it's rectangular and it's meant to be spun down, and there are hundreds of different types of pen blanks that are just wood, so you can find something that is to your liking and spin down. A lot of times when you buy them online or at the store, they'll have this wax covering on them, and that's just so you don't get any splitting or checking or damage done to the blank while it's sitting on the shelf or in transit. So that's a wood blank. You may also find larger blanks that can be cut down to size, and this one is a piece of flaming box elder, and as you can see it's got damage on it from, I don't know, bugs or disease, and this one has been stabilized using a resin that is heated up after it's vacuum sealed into the little nooks and crannies, which makes this no longer very pucky or soft, but actually quite hard, much like a resin pen blank. Now onto some fun stuff. You can get pen blanks that are a mix of more than one material. For instance, this one here is a cholla cactus that I've mixed with a couple of different colors of resin. And this is a cholla cactus. You can see it's got holes that go through it, and in those holes the resin gets sucked up inside, and then you can end up with a pen, when you turn it, that looks like this. You can see where the wood was, you can see where the resin has leaked through. So you can turn this into this, into that. And this is normally what's called a hybrid pen blank. Anything that is not only wood, but also resin or some other type of material would be considered a hybrid pen blank. I have a few other examples of those. This one is a resin and sweet gum pod blank that I made. And this is a sweet gum pod. I bought this off of Etsy, a big box of them actually, relatively cheap, and then mixed it with resin and created a bunch of pen blanks. This one's kind of fun too. This is resin with fossilized shark teeth that I have cast in here. And you may notice that this one's significantly shorter than some of the other pen blanks that we've covered, and that's because there are different styles of pens. Some pens will have 2 tubes, some will only have 1. As an example, this is a tube for a Sierra pen, which is what this is fitted for. There's already a tube in here, in fact. So you can see it's just long enough for one Sierra pen. This one might work fine for a slimline pen or something that has 2 tubes in it. It's about 5 1/4 long. So normally you can do longer pens with something like this. A slimline, let's see, I think it's called a Vertex, but there's a variety that can use the full length of the tube. Some of them with 2 tubes, some of them with just 1. So the shark tooth one turned out really cool. This is another hybrid pen blank, and what you can see is that inside this I've printed a picture on a label and attached it to the tube, and then attached to that I've used various chains and watch parts and created this hybrid clear pen blank. And also note that this is for a Sierra style pen. And in order to do something like this, I used a block mold, a tube-in block mold. This one happens to be from P-Town Subby. Go check him out. You put a little cap in here, a little cap in here. Your tube goes in the middle, and then you pour resin and let it set. And then when it's done, you pop it out, and you're ready to go. So this is one type of mold. There are many available. Again, this one is for a Sierra tube. He sells them for, geez, probably 100 different kinds of pens. So if you're looking to do label casting or tube-in casting, go check out P-Town Subby and see what he's got available. Now, while we're talking about molds, this is an example of just a really inexpensive silicone mold that I got from Amazon. I think it came in a pack of 3, and what you can do is pour individual pen blanks in here. And I believe this one that I'm putting in now actually has a piece of cholla cactus inside. So you cut the cholla to size, then pour your resin in. Depending on the resin you're using, you might want to use a pressure pot to get the bubbles out, or you can also do a vacuum chamber, but that's sort of not advised because it creates a massive amount of bubbles. And I think your best bet for something like this is to use a pressure pot. But this is a 4-chamber mold. I think it was maybe $13 for a set of 3 of these. They're pretty flexible and easy to get your resin out of. There's another type of mold. This one is a block mold. And as you can see, it's got little screws on here that you can take out on 2 sides and then get your poured resin material out. And these are great because you can do 5, 6, 7, depending on how thin you cut your blanks, all at one time, and you get very uniform shapes. Here's a quick example. I turned, let's see if I can get that to fit. I turned a block of these yesterday into, I believe, 7 pen blanks in total. One long one across the top, which is a full 6 inches, and then the rest of them I cut 5 1/4, and I believe they're also 0.75 or 3/4 inches across. So those are a great size for doing most any sort of pen, really. But these block molds are great. I get mine from this guy called, let's see if I can get that off of his logo. It's Kevin Dinger. You can find him on Facebook. There we go. He's also got a website. You can look for him. There are many other folks that sell these as well. This is the guy that I use, and I really love these blanks. They're made of HDPE, which is a very hard and heat-resistant plastic. I believe it's the same kind of plastic that they make milk jugs out of. But anyway, he buys them in sheets, forms them nice, and then creates these great blanks. By the way, this is not a pen blank block. This is for doing knife scales or call blocks. So for instance, if you wanted to create a duck call or something of that nature, you can use these bigger sized molds. It might not fit in there because I screwed it on pretty tight. But this came out of this, and now I have a 2 by 2 by 6 inches long block mold that can be used for calls. Or we could cut this guy into 3 2 by 2 by 2 cubes and then create 3 bottle stopper blanks out of this guy. Another thing that I did with that particular block was I poured knife scales. Now you can see this one I started to cut down a little bit, but this was a hybrid, a combination of stabilized Manzanita burl and then Alumilite resin that I used some color shift powders on. They're actually referred to as magical mica, magical blue, magical red, magical green, and it gives that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? It's mother of pearl or abalone. And in fact, over here, this is a knife that I'm working on the handle for that was made from this poured in that. So you could also do pen blanks in this if you wanted to. Since it's 2x2x6, you could probably fill the entire thing and then cut it right down the middle and cut that right down the middle and end up with 4 6-inch long pen blanks. That's pretty cool. Speaking of this manzanita burl, these hybrid pen blanks were poured with stabilized manzanita burl, then again some alumilite resin. So there's all sorts of material that you can use in there. This one I actually used aluminum honeycomb. It's a sheet of this material. Got it online and poured some pen blanks. And I didn't do something right with this, I'm not sure why, but these little pieces of resin really don't seem to stick to the aluminum very well when you're turning it at high speed. Of the 3 that I turned, only one of them didn't blow up. I believe you can soak this in acetone or maybe denatured alcohol, maybe some sort of an etching solution in order to get the alumilite or the liquid diamonds or the royal palm resin to stick better, but I didn't do that with this one and I regret it. Last one that I want to show is this. This is a diamond infused pen blank that I got from Tim McKenzie. You can find him on Facebook. He's got McKenziePenworks.com. He makes some really great pen blanks of different sizes. And what I like about this, guys, is that he actually uses little tiny flakes of diamond inside the pen blank, which gives them just an incredible sparkle. And a lot of times it's more of a sparkle than what you could get if you don't have it. This turned out great, but it's lacking that diamondy sparkle that we get with pen blanks created by Tim. Here's another example. You can kind of see a little glistening in the sun. Very cool. So one more here. This is a piece of curly cottonwood, and I stabilized it using a little bit of alumilite dye, some resin dye, and at the time I did not set my vacuum chamber up properly, so as you can see it did not suck all of the resin into the wood. Therefore the color didn't also go into the wood. So when I turn this, it's probably going to end up looking pretty much like curly cottonwood with this gold resin on one side, and most of the reddish color is going to go away. So that's really it. A couple of different kinds. There's the tube-in kind. There are hybrids such as this one or this one or this one that have pieces of wood of various types in it. This here is just a plain resin, another plain resin, piece of aluminum, so that's fun. This guy here was the sweet gum pods, a very cool shark teeth, piece of cholla cactus, and then just a pure piece of plain wood untouched, and then a piece of stabilized flame box elder. And then we talked about a couple of different molds. Your tube-in mold. These are your individual chamber type of molds. And then big giant block molds of various types. So it's a very creative process and also a very messy process. It took me a while to use my little scraper to get the resin off of my kitchen island. I would advise not doing this in your house. It's very messy, but it's also a lot of fun and you can create some really cool looking pens.